Hey, guess who? That's right, it's your old pal, SimplySuperDave, coming at you with another episode of Staying Super with me. That's right, hanging out in this crazy world. I'm coming to you from the great state of Louisiana here in these crazy United States, on this crazy planet spinning out of control in this crazy universe we call life. How's everyone doing tonight? It is nighttime when this podcast is being recorded. It is Thirsty Thursday night. That's right. We're almost to Friday. We can just taste it. Anyway, I was on my way home and I just had a thought, and a great song came on the radio by Green Day called Know Your Enemy. And that song influential. It makes a lot of thoughts in my mind happen, okay? You know, because that's the beauty about art and music, is that many people can interpret it differently. You know what I'm saying? And I just think it's funny. We live in a world where everybody's interpretation is what we argue about. Like, this is what it really means. This is what it means. No one knows what it really means. You know what I mean? I know that sounds crazy, all right? And this podcast is starting off kind of nutty, but I know I am my greatest enemy, okay? And that's the thought that usually runs through my head. And then, of course, know your enemy. Know who the real, you know, if you want to look at it politically, you know, your enemy is your government, obviously, and the way things are out there and the way things are going. It's obvious when you look at the past empires of history that we get to a crazy state of mind, both politically and socially. Granted, I always like to do podcast episodes talking about the internet and the way that influences society, because I think that we are a society of a first to be able to be completely connected worldwide, which is a big deal because that's never been done before in human history. And you can argue with me about that all you want, but the transportation of information and the way how fast that happens is always affects society and how it moves and how fast things move. So when people say things weren't like this back in the day, well, that's because you didn't have the speed that you have today. I mean, think about how frustrating it is when you have to wait for a video to buffer and how that irritates you compared to how long you used to have to. I mean, think about it. Back in the day, if you wanted to catch a show, either you were there on time to catch it, or you didn't see that episode ever until the internet came along, or DVDs. On demand was a big thing, and used to be a convenience or a luxury. Now it's almost automatic. And with things being so automatic, people tend to lose touch with their humanity a little bit, because the technological side of things in your life, you don't realize takes away from the human side that you have inside of you. The patience, the willingness to learn, all that kind of neat stuff. Yeah, when you just have access to information without having to search for it, that's a big, think about that huge chunk of who we are that's taken away mentally because you don't have to put so much effort into the information. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining. I'm not saying we need to go back to the Dewey Decimal System of libraries. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, then you're old enough to know. If you don't know what that is, then that's the difference. Think about Indiana Jones when he used to actually go looking for things. That's the adventure, is the discovery, right? So I have to ask that without the adventure, what's the point? I mean, it's a lot of information. I love living in a society where we have access to really all human knowledge that's allowed to be known. We are slowly discovering there's a lot of history, because history is written. It's written mostly by the winners and never by the losers. You never get always two-point perspectives. Even though it exists out there, it's never promoted. Now we live in a society where you get all perspectives, which is great, but it pisses a lot of people off, as if they're living in the 1800s or the 1750s or 1776. It's 2023, okay? And I think a lot of people today have gotten crazy to where they say their perception of this song is the one that rules all and everybody else needs to go to jail. That's where we're almost at. And that sounds crazy, but think about it and relate it to every other argument you probably have had here recently in the last 10 or 15 years, and you'll realize that a lot of the things that frustrate you when you think about it and it occupies your time are things 20 years ago we went and did things instead of having a mental breakdown over something that's not actually happening around us but happening in a virtual setting. There you go. And then when we want to figure something out, we don't even have to get out of the car. You just go to a search engine. Next thing you know, you're looking up all this information that you don't even have to walk into a library to discover. The access of all that information without knowing how to get there, just getting there, you take for granted. I think the thought process of how they got there. And I think sometimes knowing the path, other than just knowing the answer, is the same thing as giving all the answers to a math test. You go through, you get them all right, you get 100% on the test, but then you're in a work situation where that math needs to be done and you have no clue how to get there. You know what the answer could be, but you don't know how to do the work. And I think a lot of that's missing because now we have search engines instead of thought process. Instead of being your own search engine, you have search engines that do it for you. That's a big mental aspect of society that's gone. Then you have brilliant people, and I do know a few of these people, that know how to still do that and use all that information that's out there. So it's like those are really just ultra smart people. I love having conversations with them. I know the level of my education, and I also know it's limitless. It just depends how much I want to push it, but I love being inspired by other really intelligent, driven people, because even if I don't agree with their perspective, because that happens, I don't care how smart you are, everybody's life's different, so what works in your life may not work in mine. But if I was in your life, I would agree with you, so kind of speak. That's how I look at things. There's never a true right answer for everybody. There's no one interpretation of a song for everybody. And that's life. And we live in a country where that was beautifully put together. And even though they knew there would be tensions and things like that, because when you have a melting pot of different traditional values all put in the same place rather than its own country like every other country is mostly built, then you have divides. And I think we have slowly blurred those lines away in this country, but the media still likes to push those narratives and keeps us fighting. But that's not what this is about, because what I really was thinking about when I was hearing that song was it inspired me to really just put out there that if you listen to this podcast, thank you so very much. And two, if you listen to this podcast because you want to be thought-provoked and you want to, have creative thinking and that's called critical thinking, by the way. It doesn't matter what you critically think about. Critical thinking is a good thing. But the gist is that I know the topics, I know the podcast, I don't care about, I am mindful of things when I talk. I don't want to offend anybody personally, but if I do offend you just by being me and talking about what I'm saying, then that's your problem. It's not mine. But if I do say something that is controversial, I'll admit to that, and then I'll apologize, but I still hold true to how I feel about it. Does that make sense? I'm not going to apologize for what I said, but I will apologize for how you feel about it. Because I understand there's possibility that there's going to be, a certain percentage of these people disagree with me completely. No matter how right or logical I feel about it, I know that I will be disagreed with. And because I do touch on topics about everything that is quite controversial, or whatever is controversial in my opinion, I don't know. That's not too many. Racial is not a controversial topic. Controversial topics are topics people are afraid to talk about. And these are topics that people in everyday life don't talk about because it's not a real life issue. Really, it isn't. When you look around real life, most people get along pretty good. There's going to be one or two bad apples out of the bunch that make a narrative. And then, I don't know, sometimes I feel like people just feed into that process. But overall, I think that's it. I think it's just crazy talk because people want to be crazy at times. And society at this point is bursting at the seams, fighting over gender identity. Where did it get normalized that it was okay to just talk about your sexuality out in public? And then people are like, why can't I? Okay, look, you can in the right setting or whatever, but just respectfully, whatever you do privately at home is, nobody needs to know that except for one special person. Or if you have, like 5 wives, 5 special people. But I mean, everybody else, it really doesn't matter. It has no bearing whatsoever on their lives. But yet we'll argue about it as if, like, at the end of the day, that matters. And then you'll burn bridges over that. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. I think there's a reason why there's a lot of privacy. I believe in it because, like, your medical decisions, I don't think need to be publicly known. I don't think that a medical decision needs to be taken public the way it was. If there's something that people are, obvious, real life pandemic kind of stuff, this was, I don't know if I feel like a practice run 2020 was. And we failed miserably, which is good because when you do something for the first time, you're going to fuck up, right? So, because pandemics are real. When these things really are serious, and I know people will be offended that I didn't make it a bigger deal, but I'm sorry, but that didn't even come close to the top 10 worst outbreaks of anything in the history of mankind. But because it was so recent and it happened recently, it's a big deal. So I get that. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying we were lucky. We were fucking lucky to have the luxury of arguing if it was working or not working, mask or no mask. Instead of just going, we got a lot of bodies to pick up. Real life people dying, plague kind of shit, where they come and collect the dead on a daily basis kind of thing. I know in some places that kind of happened because of congestion, but that's why I love rural areas where people are kind of spread out. I like the spread out effect, which was why I was against the lockdowns. Well, not the lockdowns so much, but shutting down stores, for examples. Why force everyone to one location? Wouldn't you want people to be spread out? What kind of thinking is that? Oh, we'll make this one store, and these other 15 can't be open, but this one can, because why have 15 stores? It just didn't make no sense to me. Well, more people would have been out. No, you just cluttered everybody to get sick in one spot, sent them home to their families to spread it to them. That's all you did. It was a general spreader, in my opinion. It's very bad thinking. I will stand firm on that. You can't convince me differently on that topic because shutting down stores was the worst thing you could have done. Mask, I don't really give a shit. If you want to wear one, wear one. If you don't. I think it's good that you can if you're sick because that contains your shit to yourself. But as far as you wearing it because you think it's keeping things out, bigger things like bugs and stuff, yeah. But air particles, no. Painter for almost 20 years. Wore a lot of masks, a lot of ventilators and stuff like that. I know what does and what does not work, and what it does and what it doesn't do. And I've inhaled a lot of paint through wearing those masks, and not even be in the same room where it's spraying. So there you go. You can even stand outside the door of a house. If they're spraying paint inside and the fog mist, that's paint. That's literal paint. And you breathe it, and you're breathing in paint. That's how it is. Yeah, I'm going to die early, probably. You know, I'm surprised I'm almost to 50. Almost to 50. But yeah, I understand that I'm shadow banned. I understand my Facebook account's restricted. I understand that things aren't going to pick up my... I'm not looking to make money from this. I understand that I'm not a viral sensation or anything big's going to ever happen from any of my content creation, whether it be TikToks or this podcast or anything I do. I understand that. But I like being honest about that because I think that's 99% of the people out there. Doesn't matter what you do, it's just not going to be good enough for the success you have built up in your mind when you get ready to do it or while you're doing it or what you're striving to really try to do. I would love to be a viral sensation. I would love to be able to make money sitting here doing this, talking. You know, that would be great, but that's a dream, you know. But I'm also watching people make money playing video games and make a living. So I never thought I'd see that happen either. So you never know, right? You got to keep trying. You got to keep swimming. No matter how stupid it may seem to everybody else. If it matters to you, do it. Look at me. I'm doing this. Does it matter to really anybody? Not really. But if you listen to this conversation, or if you listen to any of my podcast, and you have an explorative thought, or if it inspires you to go into a subject matter, or whatever, you know, to want to critically think your own path and way, then that's awesome. And then I become some kind of weird dude you heard on the radio one day or on, you know, Spotify that made you think about that kind of shit. And that helped you be a creative artist in your own mind. Finding that love and laughter among all that hate and fear. Because, I mean, really, look at all the content that's out there. Scary this, look at this, blah, blah, blah. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Yeah. I'm here going... cool. The things that are big deals to a lot of people, I'm like, yeah, it's not the first rodeo. It's just, I love life to its fullest, but I believe things should be hyped if they deserve to be. I think that things that deserve recognition should get it, things that, but they have to earn it. You know, I don't think that, I don't know. I'm getting crazy here with my thoughts. I'm just really happy for some reason. And that I felt inspired to even want to talk about anything on a podcast. Here lately, it's been a busy summer for me, you know, and been working a lot. Inflation does kill you, you know, because you're going to have to work. You have to work more. You have to make more money to even maintain what you had going before without the luxuries, you know, the little extra stuff, you know, that's kind of fading. So, and I'm getting older and I'm just tired of it all, and it shouldn't be this hard. And I think it should be a lot easier, you know. So, the podcast is all about trying to keep ourselves mentally super for everything, to not let it get to us and make us crazy and disrespectful to one another, to be a little fake, to be respectful, to put on your happiest face towards everybody you see, and save your drama llamas for those friends, those people that really do care. Don't waste it on a stranger unless you just want to let it go and you never want to talk about it again. Those are what strangers are really good for when you want to have a conversation. And I always recommend that. If you want to have a conversation about something that you don't want to have repeated back to yourself on a daily basis or ruin a friendship, tell a stranger. Get a broad perspective or an opinion back that might help you. Sometimes not knowing you can help you with your problem that seems to be the most personal. Because then it takes that perspective of you out of it and just tells you what the right thing to do is. And life is about those kind of decisions. It doesn't matter if the other person gets it right in your book, as long as they get it right in theirs. We got to be a little bit more supportive of one another. And sometimes the best way to do that is if you got nothing good to say, don't say anything at all. Just let it go. Scroll past it. Move past it. Don't waste time on it. Don't put your energy into something that has no benefit whatsoever in your life. So thank you if you're listening to this. It means a lot. It means that you believe in the love and laughter out there with all the craziness that's going on. You believe that all the hate and fear is conquerable. And you're the conqueror. Remember, you're in control of your bubble. You are in control of your output of energy and where it goes. Be mindful. Use your own search engine and put some thought into your life. Love and laughter. It's the only thing that conquers hate and fear. Nothing else.